ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो परमगुरुभ्यो श्रीमदानंदतीर्थभगवत्पादाचार्योभ्यो नमो नमः। नारायण परिपूर्ण गुणार्णवाय विस्फोदयस्थितितोलय नियतिप्रताय ज्ञानप्रताय विबुधासुरसौख्यदुःखसत्कारणाय विददाय नमो नमस्ते। यो विप्रलिम्ब विपरीतमधिप्रबोधान् वादानिरस्य कृतवान् भुविदत्ववादं सर्वेश्वरो हरिरीति प्रतिपादकं त्वम् आनन्दतीर्थमुनिवर्यं नमामि। पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मरताय च भजतां कल्पवृक्षाय नमतां कामधेनवे। अतः मुण्डकोपनिषदः शान्तिमन्त्राः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः, भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः, स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः, स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः, स्वस्ति न क्षार्यो अरिष्टनेमिः, स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Welcome friends. I think today we are into the second talk of Mundakopanishad. The invocation what we have recited is meant for all the Upanishad under Atharva Veda. Since it is Mundakopanishad, the original, because the scholarly name for this as referred to in the scriptures is Atharvopanishad. And it is coming in Atharva Veda, and we have already covered Mandukya Upanishad, which is also part of Atharva Veda. The Mundaka Upanishad is also embedded in Atharva Veda. Therefore, we have taken the invocation of Shanti Mantra of Atharva Veda, which we have recited for Mandukya Upanishad. The same invocation is recited for the Mundaka Upanishad also. So having taken that, because last week we have seen how great this Upanishad, how it is relevant to us, because the very word Satyameva Jayate has been taken from this Upanishad. Satyameva Jayate has been taken from this Upanishad from the third chapter. I think third chapter is the one who expounds, finally, because how the conduct of the person, conduct of the individual, or conduct of the society, conduct of the country, everything will have to be in sync with the highest possible evolution of the society, highest possible evolution of the world and the universe as it is. And that is why, because it has been embedded in that particular, the third chapter, which is the culminating chapter. Because the Mundaka Upanishad has got the three portions. The Mundaka Upanishad is divided into three Mundakas. The Mundakas are called the chapters, and first Mundaka is the one, which is expounding. There are two type of knowledge. One is the higher knowledge and lower knowledge, because to be colloquially to put it, in scholarly terms, it is put Paravidya and Aparavidya. Aparavidya is the one worldly knowledge, what we do, because all of us learn, these sciences, physical sciences. We also learn, all other sort of humanities, all other knowledge we gather for the purpose of living in this world, for the purpose of earning in this world, for the purpose of trying to create, because the entities in the world and try to go about it. And whatever we do for a living in this world is Aparavidya. And in those days, Aparavidya was mostly referring to, because since everyone was trying to do the rituals, which are mostly, because everything is a ritual. For us, ritual is not something separate from what we are doing every day. Morning when you get up and, when you take, wash your face, and when you see your own hands, for that also we have got, because the recital of the mantra is there. Karamule Vasate Lakshmi, because we have got, because all those mantras are there. Because it is a ritual, because as soon as you get up in the morning, you just, try to find, your own sort of your own being, you are feeling by seeing your hands, both palms. Because the palms are the one, finally, enable you to do the work. When you are doing the work, because with the physical or even the intellectual, you need the hand for right to learn, as well as, to do any job also it is there. We see like that. So therefore, because the everyday, because whatever we are doing, In those days, it was being taken as the in terms of the rituals. The ritual, were being sort of so immaculately described in our Vedas, how we have to do it. For instance, because in the as per the ritual requirements, all of us are supposed to be getting up at the Brahma Muhurtam, that is the early morning, and we are supposed to do the oblations depending upon because the practices what we have been endowed because in our family in our sort of our nashrama whatever is there we are supposed to be doing it. What is that means because when you are doing it because in the early morning when everyone irrespective of the fact caste creed or anything like that, in those days first thing what people used to do is to take the everyone had a cow. In those days pashuman bhavati, when we say wealth was the cow, and land and all those things, they were the wealth. So they what they used to do is they take the cow and allow it to go for grazing into the field. So what that is called in the first exercise, that is a ritual. Even for that there is mantras are there. How to untie, allow the cow to go for grazing. And when the cow goes for grazing, and after some time, because it will come after about an hour or so, it will make a graze and it will take water and then it will come. When it comes, it will give the sound, and then, because when it gives the noise, when you muse, then, the calf will be allowed to go to the cow. The cow will then, because the calf will take, because whatever little, it has to take. After that, that milk that is being given, after being given to the calf, will be taken for the usage of household as well as other ritualistic purposes. So first one when we do because that is we are supposed to be having Pratha Sandhya Vandanam. When we do the morning oblations, it is in the early morning. So when it has to be done, it is invoking the Vasus. All the Ashta Vasus were being invoked because they are the one who are supposed to be taking all the because the grazing and the production of the milk, and for the entire society to live on whatever is available what the god has given, and how the cows are taking the grass, and finally they are giving the milk. And that was the first ritual because like we were living with the nature, because that was the first. So as we go about then we were doing everything and all because even when you go and light your because the furnace in the cook, when you were when you are having a sort of the whatever because we have got gas stove, in those stove when you are lighting up, even for that there is a mantra. So when you are doing, everything was considered to be a sort of a mindful action. It is not that by habitually you just think of something and go about doing it and all. So everything where we were mindfully be giving ourselves to fully to the process. That entire thing which has been sequentially being explained because that is called the ritual. And the ritual finally it goes to the higher levels of doing yajna yaga for the welfare of the family, for the welfare of the society, and for welfare of the community, for the welfare of the country. All those things were being described meticulously, and one is supposed to recite all these mantras so meticulously and perform the things as given to get the desired, because the results, not only, because it is for, from the selfish interest point of view, finally, because whatever nature offers, it is able to give. And we are also able to give the nature what we are giving in terms of oblation. We are maintaining the waterfront. We are also maintaining the fields as it is. We are maintaining the cow and calf, as it is. We are not exploiting. There is no exploitation anywhere, because this is called, the entire ritualistic component, which is called karma kanda otherwise, because in a pejorative terms, because which is unfortunate, because that is karma kanda, what is described in the Veda is something, what is to be done so meticulously so that, everyday life is being brought into a systematized way of doing the things, so that, there is no sort of overlapping between the interest of the human beings or the cows or to the land or earth as it is. So this is normally, in those days it was called Aparavidya. As the times have evolved, in our case, what is happening is, because we are being sent to the school, we are being sent to the colleges, we are sent to the universities, we are taking up, the subject in which, we are able to master, and finally we come out and look up for a job. And these are all the physical sciences. The physical sciences are simply, because that also, we will have to go by the method. We will have to go by the postulations. We will have to go by the theories. We will have to go by the lab work. We will have to do everything and all, because that is again aparavidya, because that is what, because objective science, because will have to be learned that way only, because there is a humanities, economics is there, the finance is there, so many other things are there we are taking. So all these things, because they are all considered to be essential knowledge to live in this world. But then, because they are all objective, you are able to see, because physical science, in the sense, you will be able to see the results. You will be able to chemical sciences, in the sense, you will be able to see the processes. The biological sciences, you will be able to dissect and see what is inside and how to do it. And anatomical science, because the medicinal world learns, how to do about the things, by seeing those things. So like this essential requirement, to keep the society going, that is called aparavidya. Aparavidya is essential because the society has to live with that. It is not that something not required into. But then, because in those days, rituals were considered to be, one of the most important, because like whatever we are learning is systematized and all. Be it a ritual or be it objective sciences, what we are learning and all of them are important for living in this world. But once it comes about, there is something called subtle. Because every day, because these are all you are working, based on, because the knowledge you have gathered, because to get the desired product, services, as well as, because how to go about, that is the objective science. And that is basically based on that, we try to master that. In that process, we are trying to going deep into that, because some people get the PhD, some people go about and getting the Nobel Prizes and other things they bring in, because sort of epoch making changes, to the welfare of the society, they do so many things. Incidentally, it also brings in, because a lot of attendant, because unwanted issues also with that, because once you are concentrating on objective science, it doesn't see holistically everything. It takes one part of it, because we might have, because the atomic science, might have helped us, giving an atom bomb as well as the nuclear power. Both are there, because how productively to be used, depending upon the final human choice. The human choice is based on not only, because the choice, which is good for everyone, it is based on the vested interest of the group or organizations of the country as it is. So therefore, the objective science is good, but objective science always doesn't have the intended benefit to the entire society as a whole. So objective science can only properly be utilized unless it is accompanied by the subtle science, the spiritual science. That is Paravidya. Paravidya is invisible. Invisible, we say, because we have got all life forces, we are all breathing right from the day one. How we are breathing, what mechanism is making us to breathe. Even a dog is breathing, we are breathing, and even the animals in the forest, they are breathing. And, because even the plants, because they are also having, because their own life force in that. Finally, who has made it happen? Finally, they all have, we have to live with everyone and all. We can't be exploiting one, in place of another, because now we have seen, because right from the day the world has been formed, because it's being, because in 18 billion years or something like that, because they are trying to give us a calculation that is imputed calculation, because it's only an estimate, what is being talked about. But then 99.9% of the species, which has all come about in this world, has got extinct. Only in a few of the human being and others, who are exploiting, they are only surviving. This is what is happening. This is happening because we have gone about the objective sciences. Aparavidya has taken us, to the utmost level, but we have not understood the subtle science. What is the subtle science? A mother's love to the child is subtle, because a love, will you be able to measure and calibrate, and you will be able to sort of quantify it? Because even it is not, because it is a sort of a qualia, what is it is a sort of an more to be experienced. You will not be, mother's love will have to be mamta, because you will have to more to be experienced. And when because like, something, because when you are trying to like someone else, someone, and try to do the things, and when you are having a sort of emotionally attached to the things, you are able to do, you will not be able to measure. That is a qualia. The love, compassion, And these are all the qualities, because where, you are able to consider everyone to be equal. And because to understand the subtle knowledge, the entire scriptures are giving the same life force is in you, which is there in everyone else. Once you understand that, we are not special. We are not this body. And we are like anyone else. But because when you do have the subtle components to understand, once you understand these things, then it will put you into a right pedestal. So as long as you have got only the worldly wisdom to live in this world, earn in this world, save in this world, and take care of yourself in this world, you are only running with the one wheel. The other most important wheel that balances, because in the subtle science, the Paravidya. The Paravidya is just about, you are not able to see the life force in you, invisible. You are not able to quantify the love. You will not be able to quantify the compassion. You will not be able to quantify, because how you are able to get over grief, how you are able to serve people affected, by the landslides and earthquake, when you go and feel, because their own losses, you become part of it and you try to give as best as possible to ameliorate their causes. So these are all, because that is a quality that has come, because through our heart. Because that is why, because Angushta Matra Purusho Sada Hrite Sannivishtaha, we have seen in Kathopanishad. Why, because the life force is supposed to be living in the hearts of everyone, because in the scriptures, because that is an emotional center. Head without a heart is no use, for living in this society. Likewise, because only, because intellectually I have got all the knowledge, all the sort of a wherewithal to do, live in this world, I will not be able to live. Because I need the Paravidya. The Paravidya is the ultimate one, because that is the higher knowledge. By knowing that knowledge, I will be able to utilize whatever I am having in the life knowledge, worldly wisdom, so effectively, I will be able to make a much better use of it, and I can become a much better human being. And this, by becoming all of us becoming a better human being, we will have a wonderful society, wonderful community, wonderful country, and wonderful world around us. This entire thing has been brought about, and that is why the importance of true knowledge has been highlighted in the first Mundaka of this Upanishad. And as we go about, we will see from the first Mundaka onwards, first verse onwards, how it takes the importance of the knowledge. The first part of the Upanishad highlights the knowledge, importance of the knowledge, highlights the importance of the Paravidya. Aparavidya is important. Certainly, worldly wisdom is required. In fact, there is a very great, because Tirukural, which is there, Arulillarukku avulagam illai, Purulillarukku ivulagam illai angu. When you don't have money, this world is not for you, because you will not be able to do what we want. Even if you want to do some good, unless you have the resources, you will not be able to do. Arulillarukku avulagam illai. Arulillarukku, unless you have the compassion, unless you understand the same power is in me, and this is the same power which activates anyone else. And it also another meaning, unless you have the compassion and the great qualities, you will not be able to attain the so-called highest heaven, what is being talked about, for which, people do work all through their life. So that is what, because that Tirukural beautifully said, you need both. You need Purulillarukku Ivulagam illai, Arulillarukku Avulagam illai. If you don't have all these great qualities, because you will not be, because considered to be the highly evolved human being, even the so-called heaven, which is considered to be, because eligible for those who have transcended the entire human possibilities, you will not be able to get it. But at the same time, in this world, you need to have the resources. Without that, you will not be able to do that. Therefore, you will have to have both. That is how it importance. But the most important thing is, unless you have the highest knowledge, subtle knowledge, you will not be able to effectively be, because drive yourself in this world like an emperor. Otherwise, you are capable of going through like a butter through the knife through the butter. You are able to go through that. You will not be unassigned. You will be able to get through. You will not be affected by any vicissitudes. You will not be bogged down by some here and there, some sort of obstructions will come, but you will just get over that. Because you have got the knowledge of, you got the most certain knowledge. Anything that comes on, you will also find, because there is always this too shall pass. We had a pandemic, we have come through that. After pandemic, now we are not bothered about, because we are not concerned about, how it will come because of our own action. But we go about all the other way around, extreme. We are not balanced. But both the knowledge balances, and the most important thing is the paravidya, that is subtle knowledge, the qualia, the compassion, love, and as well as the highest knowledge of understanding the power, the superpower, and how this knowledge has come, how we have to hold, how we have to get this knowledge. That is the purpose of this Upanishad. We have seen, because all the other Upanishads have also expounded the different, because the ways of, getting into the highest possible knowledge to live in this world. Here it gives the importance of knowledge per se. It can be called the knowledge Upanishad, jnana, the highest possible jnana, because it's emphasized in this. But the jnana along with the karma, okay, you have to do work. You will not be able to, because if you want to work in this world, worldly wisdom, you will have to work. You will not be keeping idling. You can't be procrastinating. You will have to work. You have to have a blueprint for work, and you will have to execute that. But at the same time, you also have to understand that whatever you are doing the work, you will have to do meaningfully do it. You will have to, the choices which you are exercising will have to be sort of a right choice for which you can take the responsibility. Most of the time we take the choices, but we don't take the responsibility. We have seen earlier, and because we will also be experiencing it and seeing it all through the Upanishad. And here, then it also suggests, because it here brings out beautifully how this knowledge has the Paravidya, which is the most important knowledge, how it has been brought. Because the invisible knowledge, the subtle knowledge, which is the one, which is guiding our, because all the wisdom, whatever we gather in this world and make it into a evolved human being, and finally to be one of the finest beings, so that we can all live in harmony with everything, everyone else, and everything else. And that is the purpose of it. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, that is the purpose of it. That's what it is in training. So in the first verse, as we have gone about, in the first verse, we will be seeing that, because the first verse is the one in which is in your page. The first verse is, it is Guru Parambara, lineage of teachers. How this highest knowledge has been brought down to the ultimately to each one of us, at this stage. Who has given this knowledge? How this knowledge has come? What is the purpose of this knowledge? When we say the person who has given the knowledge, the importance of the knowledge is being enshrined. When finally, because Albert Einstein says something, because it is the highest knowledge, because he has found that highest truth, which the scientists have been trying to find for time immemorial. Likewise, because the subtle knowledge is the one finally handed down from lineage. We have to understand that lineage. That is very important for us. How, because we may be small at the point of time. We are still not getting, we are about to get the knowledge. But once we slowly get the knowledge, we will also be, because getting, we will be gathering some substance in us. And it will make us, once the substance gathers amongst, into us, we become more subtle. Once we become more subtle, is become more light. We are no longer heavy. We don't carry a weight. We become slowly, we are able to accept, and we are able to go through the world like this. The first verse, we will be seeing today. It is the lineage of teachers, verse 1.1 at the bottom of your page 5, the document I have sent. The origins of the knowledge, which we are seeing now. Om Brahma Devanam Pratamatsam Babuva. Om Brahma Devanam Pratamaha Sam Babuva. Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, is the one, because who has come out of the nabi of the Vishnu. He come out of the lotus, of the nabi of the Vishnu. He is the firstborn. He is the one, had the knowledge, which the entire knowledge of the Paravidya, the ultimate knowledge was with him. Some Babuva, because he He's the one, first came out of, because into this world. Pratama is the thought of primordial. He is above everyone and all. Finally, because it means that is the knowledge is so highest, it has been brought down in the highest power, from the source of the knowledge. And from there, Brahma has, because had that entire wisdom. And from there, it has been passed down. This is, because when it is coming down, because it has to come through the lineage. And it has to come, because through the Shruti. The entire our scriptures have come through Shruti, by word of mouth. In the word of mouth, because when it comes, it is so sort of a pristine pure, because the intonation, the accent, the way it has to be understood, everything is being recited. Everything is being recited repeatedly. Everything is being regurgitated. That is manana, shravana and manana. And then finally, by doing understanding that what is that, because I am repeating and trying to understand, internalize in the entire, every cell of my body, that is nitidhyasana. Once it becomes that, it becomes an habit. It becomes a part of me. It can never go. Once it comes, because then it becomes, the embodiment of, this particular knowledge system of this body. And once it knows, because it is, even if the body goes, the knowledge remains, because it is becoming a part of treasure trove of chitta. So, Om Brahma Devanam, Devanam in the sense the one who have highly evolved, he is the Pratamaha, the one who have highly evolved and reached the ultimate sort of transcendence. He is the first among them. From there, Babuva and some Babuva, in the sense, because it is this so sacred, because there's such a knowledge, he's got it. Some Babuva, Vishwasya Karta. Vishwasya Karta, because the one who is protecting the entire world, one who has created, because who has been, who has been reason for this entire world to be created. And he's the one, because Vishwasya Karta. And Vishwasya Karta, he is the one, because the authority, author for this entire world. From there, it has been gone. Bhuvanasya Gopta. It's not only that, because the entire world has been created and the Prakriti has formed and the Mula Prakriti has given everything Gopta. It is also being protected. Protected in an order. It is not that, because it has been given all the, why sun should be at so much of a distance from the earth. So that, because the rays that is coming into the sun is soothing and you are able to get the energy. And the sun, because the earth is going around the sun, but then, because every day, every part of the earth, gets the sunshine at this assigned the day of the day, assigned the time of the day. So when it is there, sun alone is giving that energy without bothering about, because how you are receiving it and what you are making it. But then, because how it happened, because sun is also supposed to be representing the pranava and finally the ultimate, because the Brahman. That's why in Isavasya Upanishadam he has said, Satyasya apihitam bhukam. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya apihitam mukam, we have seen. This entire, the golden orb of the sun, when we are seeing who is giving that power to the sun, who is behind that sun. So we are trying to pray to him so that, because we are offering our sincere prayers to him so that finally let him bestow his blessings onto the, because he is giving his blessings all through the sun, because he is giving us the energy. Without sun, because the entire, because the creations would not have happened. And, because that is the highest possible sort of a reason to understand, how the origin of the life has come into being, how the entire universe has formed. Because why people are getting into that, knowing the curiosity, because thinking, the power, why someone has to think about that. These are all it's not the fanciful, because the imagination, it is not that, it's all the power of sort of a creative, because imagination which is taking you to the highest, knowing the highest purpose of this creation and highest purpose of the created, so that, we understand the purpose of that. Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gopta. Gupta in the sense, it also has got, because that it is a sort of, the order, that protection. It is also in the secret, because he has created an order, which no one can, because find out. All the orders are, because why Mars and Moon, all of them in the respective places. Why? Because there's certain storms that is taking place in other planets. How? Because though it is giving, it is the radiation, but it is not, because unduly affecting, because the other planets, where human beings are there. And, because when you find the origin of the life, because then you can try to find, because whether there is any possibility of origin of the life elsewhere. How it could have happened. These are all the mysteries, because which we don't know. This is Paravidya. In fact, because why? Because so much of our time and money has been spent on doing what is this origin of the life. In the origin of the life is so interesting a thing, because so that you find, because how the first unicellular component, unicellular species might have come, how it could have formed, how it could have regenerated, how it could have, because progeny, it could have brought its own progeny. How, because finally, because different structures would have evolved. Finally, how the human beings could have come. That's why, because our scriptures have always said, there are 84 lakh species. And, because all the 84 lakh of this, and the human being is the highest evolved species, that is what, we are talking about. So when how to know this entire mystery, that it is a wonder of wonders. That wonder of wonders, because is the only when you are trying to have a propensity to grasp the highest knowledge, you will be doing. And once you know what same power, which finally, because when the creation has taken place, finally when the dissolution also takes place, it will also be involution. As the evolution is there, finally there will be an involution. So when it happens, who makes this evolution and involution separately? And who is maintaining this entire thing? So this is to understand the greatness of two type of knowledge. Both are there. Both are required. Worldly knowledge, to live in this world, that is for minimalistic. That, it doesn't need any, because any special, because whatever you can do, you do, make a earning and live in this world. At the same time, once you try to understand, once you are living in a family, once you are living in a society, once you are having, because all the subtle qualities like love, compassion, and, because you are trying to find assuage, because you ameliorate others, sufferings, as well as, you are trying to find a way out, because so that, you can give something, for others to hold on, because in terms of a product, in terms of services, in terms of innovation, and all these things takes place, because that is the highest purpose, because the mind has taken us to that. It's not only warding off, every day, with our own little things, which we are afraid of, because we are fearful of everything, every possibility that we'll be losing what we are having. Without having to do that, once you are having the highest fearlessness, then you will be having the Paravidya. So that is what they call it. And then, because when they say Om Brahma Devanam Pratamaha Sam Babuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gupta, the next sentence says Sa Brahma Vidyayam Sarva Vidya Pratishtam. So Brahma Vidya, because people always talk, because it's not a great Brahma Vidya. If you say, because if you are not able to get, properly, you are not able to swim properly and also, but it's not a great Brahma Vidya, because you do it, you will be able. That's why so importance is given Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is the so subtle knowledge. It needs, you will not be able to get yourself. You need a qualified guru. Qualified guru in the sense who himself, experienced the entire subtle knowledge, who is embodiment of all the love, compassion, everything, inbuilt in him. Sotriyam Brahmanishtam. It is not only he is teaching, he is living like that. The great masters who have lived like that, they are only able to, even without talking to us through the vibration, they are able to make us understand so many subtle things, which even the years and years of learning in the classroom or outside, you will not be able to get. So that is Samma Vidyayam Sabba Vidya Pratishtham. This is the foundation of all the knowledge. All objective science, physics, chemistry, nuclear science, this and that, anatomy, medical science, everything, and whatever you do, neuroscience, everything, it is Sarva Vidya Pratishta. It is the foundation for everything. You may have all this knowledge, all those disciplines must have come about, it developed, but fundamentally you will have to understand the subtle knowledge. Fundamentally, the subtle knowledge is try to go back into the having a propensity, curiosity to see the origin of source of every knowledge. So when you are trying to go, then only, because all the great achievements have been done because all the great scientists had that such a sort of a curiosity to get into those things, to understand those things. Why someone should be thinking, because why if the apple has fallen, because for us, it is a sort of everyday routine. For Isaac Newton, it was not. He was trying to find why it is falling. For us, so many fruits are falling, it's also falling like that. Because how he got, because that sort of propensity to think about that, to get that curiosity and all. That means he has submitted himself to the highest knowledge of the source. He was trying to find the source, how it can happen. Of course, the knowledge is further developed. As it develops, because there is no end to it. It goes into a great, because science, and it gives rise to so many other sort of subordinate sciences, and they get into an independent stream of science themselves. When all these things happen, it's good. But finally, because you will have to get into origin of everything. You will not be sucked into, because what is happening, by seeing what is in front of you, because you should try to find what is the reason for that, what the root cause for that. That is the, because, and that will come more, out of intuition, because you are able to develop, that imagination, and you are able to get into the curiosity, and the curiosity is to find out the highest knowledge. And as you go about, the life will be wonderful because that is what you want. And the life, will not be something unwanted. It gives you both paravidya and aparavidya, that is worldly science. That is what we can call it the esoteric science. What you talk about, because philosophy, life science, God, and what the breath, why it happens and all, because all the gospels and all that, they will be, I think we can call it, because esoteric science. The exoteric science is the one, because what is happening around the world. So you need both esoteric and exoteric science, both. Only when because the worldly wisdom as well as, the highest possible science, through which the worldly wisdom can be effectively understood and enable us to conduct in this world properly. That is what is they have brought into this. And in that, Paravidya is most important. It is foundation of everything else. They are emphasizing that. We will see how it is, because in the first Mundaka, in the first chapter, it will be developed, because slowly, and they will be giving it. We will be seeing, how the lineage of entire knowledge system has come. The Indian knowledge system is not something, because on a parchment, it is a wonderful stream for the entire, the basis for the entire world to exist. That's what we will see in this. And Sarvavidya Pratishthayam Atharvaya Jeshtaputraya Praha. Atharvaya, because because this is what we called it Atharva Upanishad. It is coming in Atharva Veda, and Brahma has taught it to his eldest son, who is called Atharva. Atharva was the eldest son. Is it that, because is it where it is said, because he is the Atharva, because we are in this Manvantara called Vaivastha Manvantara. When you are doing, because all your prayers or pujas, yajnas and all, we will be reciting Vaivastha Manvantara. In the Vaivastha Manvantara, the firstborn son of Brahma is supposed to be Atharva. The Atharva has been, he is a great, because Atharva is the one finally, because in his name only, the lot of knowledge system in Atharva Upanishad, has been compiled, and because Atharva Brahmana, everything, because enshrines in the entire knowledge system that comes about. So Jeshta Putraya is the eldest. Atharva is the eldest of the Brahman. Brahman is the firstborn, first begotten, because of the highest power. And Praha. And he's the one, because of that, finally, he got the entire knowledge, Atharva. And from Atharva, it has passed on to subsequently to all others. And those lineage we will see, as we go about. And this brings about the importance of the lineage of Shruti. How our Shruti from original, because even all the Shrutis, they have all come through that. Finally, it comes to the last person here. And now through them, we are able to get it. It is the great masters, the great benevolent, because they have kept all through. They have not written it on a parchment and lost, in the sea or anywhere and all. They have kept it in the mind, passed on so well and it has been pristine, pure, even kept to this day. The Mundakopanishad, but there are so many versions that has been come. Most of them come together, because most of them are pointing out to the same purpose. Because the Shruti is so pristine, pure. There are so many recensions of Mundaka Upanishad in so many parts of India, but all of them bring about the same knowledge and same importance of this greatest knowledge system which is brought about. That is the importance of the knowledge. In short, the Paravidya is the highest and foundational knowledge, and Aparavidya is essential to live in this world. We will be able to meaningfully live in this world once we understand the Paravidya and try to, because through the proper means, and we will be able to live. Not only that, and we will be able to get the foundational knowledge as our forefathers have got it, and finally through their own benevolence they have brought it to us, and we will be able to hold on. If possible, we will be able to pass it down the line to our successive generations. This is what Upanishad is expecting us to do. With this, because this first mantra, because we will be concluding today's session. This is basically about lineage